Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? May everyone always be given health and smoothness in all situations. Amin. Alright, before I start to the main topic, as a moderator, I would like to say thanks to our honorable lecturer of Instructional and Material Design course, Dr. Muhammad Andriana Gafar, MMPD, who has taken his time willingly to attend this presentation. Okay, for first, I would like to introduce my group members, which is consists of 3 people. The first member is myself. My name is Azhar Fauzan Aziz, as a moderator and also as a first and last material speaker. And the second member is Fani Trisna, as a second material speaker, and then the last member is Nesha Kamila, who will deliver the third material speaker. Okay, on this occasion we will present chapter 2, which is entitled Understanding How People Think and Learn. I would like to convey what materials we will discuss in this presentation. The first material is chapter overview, and the second material is cognition and basic cognition function, which the board will be delivered by me. And the third material is modern view on thinking, received from philosophy and psychology, which will be delivered by Fani Trisna. And then the fourth material is 2 major approaches to how people learn, which will be delivered by Nisha Kamila. And then the fifth material is types of learning, and the last material is summary, and the fourth material will be delivered by myself. Alright, we are going to the first material, namely chapter overview, and I will deliver this material by myself. Thinking is a complex concept that remains and still often used in a variety of contexts to indicate very different things. Therefore, at certain times, understanding what thinking means can be a quite great challenge. An instructional designer who has a broad understanding on thinking and learning should be able to design and develop efficient, effective, and meaningful instructional intervention. Because thinking and learning are very much interconnected, having knowledge about how people process, store, and retrieve information will be very useful for an instructional designer. Okay, this is our second material, namely cognitive and basic cognitive function, and this material will be provided into 2 sections or 2 slides, and for the cognitive material will be delivered in this slide. And what is cognitive? Cognition, or it means cognitive, is the mental process of knowing, including aspects such as awareness, perception, reasoning, and judgment. In a sense, cognition includes all of the brain's mental input and output. Cognition encompasses basic activities from using language and math function during a trip to the hardware store to making complex decisions. Because cognition and thinking are terms that can be used interchangeably, it is important to realize as an instructional designer that cognition and thinking can and are used in a sense to refer to the same things. Okay, this is for the basic cognitive function material description, and in our opinion, as an instructional, cognition and components of cognition are important to understand because understand how people think helps you to understand how they learn, and it will help you for developing effective and efficient instructional intervention. There exists numerous technical terms related to cognition and components of cognition with having many the same or very similar meanings. There is some important concept related to cognition. As I mentioned earlier, there exist numerous technical terms related to cognition and component of cognition. However, there are 5 important cognition types that we have to know. The first type is memory. Memory is a storage with an active process that encodes information, stores information, reorganizes information, and integrates old information with new information. Second type is mental power. Mental strength or mental power is the basic energy for how much the person can carrying out cognitive activities related to the level of arousal, concentration span, channel capacity, and mental stamina in completing tasks. The third type is specific cognitive abilities. This type refers to an individual stores knowledge and skills such as reading, writing, comprehension, motorics, and visual spatial abilities. The fourth type is executive abilities. This type refers to the ability to determine plans, decision, priority levels, organize action, and correct oneself on social needs. And then the last type is metacognition. Metacognition is a reflective process that helps increase an individual control over his or her own thinking and learning processes. Now I will deliver a brief explanation of historical perspective on thinking. During the Renaissance to the 17th and 18th centuries, there was a shift in views on thought from previously relying on belief in revelation from God to the ability of human rational thinking. Philosophers such as Descartes and Locke emphasized that truth can be found through direct observation, sensory experience, and logical thinking. Rational thinking and the scientific method were considered reliable enough to find and evaluate truth. Okay, that's all the material from me, and for the next material will be delivered by Fani Krishna. For the Fani Krishna, The time and place is yours.
Thank you to moderator to give me the opportunity. Introduce myself, my name is Fanny Trisna. Here I will explain about a modern view of thinking the shift from philosophy to psychology. As modern view of thinking shift from philosophy to psychology, educational psychology, a separate branch of psychology has provided a view that focus on thinking and learning to more scientific thinking. Next slide, I will explain about how do designers determine their giving viewpoint in giving instruction. There are two main perspectives. These two perspectives help explain how instructional designers provide it direction so that others can think and learn effectively. Perspectives are flexible, no individual has a fixed perspective. They may find one perspective better or more appropriate than another. The rule of both perspectives, each perspective offers important insight into understanding the process of thinking and learning. Designers tend to choose the one they are most comfortable with, but they also incorporate a principle and experience from group. Influence in practice, experience. These two perspectives are the primary basis for designers when developing learning strategies, designing instructional support, creating plans that are responsive to learner needs. In this slide, I will explain about two approaches to understanding knowledge, positivism and interpretivism. There are two different but equally important approaches to building and verifying knowledge depending on the purpose and context of learning. 1. Positivism view as an objective approach to generating and verifying knowledge to main source of knowledge. 2. Logical reasoning the process of thinking that is coherent and reasonable. Example, mathematics as a sign that's used formal logic. 3. Empirical knowledge obtained through direct experience and observation, example, psych, biology, and experimental psychology. 4. Interpretivism based on the view that knowledge is subject. Knowledge is formal from individual perspective in understanding the world. Next slide, I will explain about behaviorists and cognitivists. Behaviorist perspective, the human mind is easily shaped to produce desired responsive and behavior. If conditional and circumstances are controlled, behaviorism is done by developing concepts to occur to provide important insight that have been able to provide an understanding of the truth and way of thinking of other individuals. Cognitive perspective is a view of internal mental processes that are considered important and can be identified and studied. From this cognitive perspective, the human mind is considered very complex. Some individuals have a great influence on the perspective, although the behavioral perspective dominates. The way of thinking with what is felt using the feeling more influence the instructional designer's view of how people think. And next slide, I will explain constructivism and neuroscience. Learning constructivism is an approach that states that a person will understanding of the world through reflection on their personal experience. Each individual creates their own mental model to understand what they've experienced. In this process, social interaction becomes an important focus because it helps students build a deeper understanding through discussion and collaboration with others. Meanwhile, neuroscience studies the brain and nervous system, including how the brain regulates various body function and behavior. Although this science has been around for a long time, its application in the world of education is still relatively new. Recent research according become show that understanding how the brain works can be teachers develop a more effective approach to teaching and interaction with students in the classroom. And next slide, I will explain postmodernism and instructional design view of thinking. Behaviorist perspective belief postmodernism, moder, postmodernism general description a reaction to the scientific view that claim to explain reality with certainty, reject objectively and single truths. Postmodernism key features reality is subjective and personal, based on the concrete experience, not abstract principle, recognize the relativity, truth, and diversity of perspectives. Instructional designers view influenced by education, training, philosophy, belief, professional. The instructional designer approach is pragmatic and systematic, focused on what need to what need to be done to achieve the learning objective. Look at thinking from multiple perspectives, not a single theory. Postmodernism, rejection of universal truth focus on personal experience. The instructional designer practical complex multidimensional approach to thinking. What is learning? Definition of learning. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavioral or mental representation association. This change is caused by experience. Example, a child learns to brush their teeth every night. Behavioral change. A person began to like classical music after listening to it after mental change. The role of experience. Learning occurs through experience, either planned school training, unplanned daily life experience. Example, learning to be patient when facing a long line at the bank. Not all changes are learning and come from learning. Some are caused by natural maturation. Example, babies start walking. Temporary body condition. Example, tired, sick. And next slide, I will explain the type of change in learning. Behavioral change focus on visible action. Theory behaviorism example, child stop swearing after being reprimanded. Change in mental representation focus on the focus of thinking and understanding theory. Cognitivism example, students begin to understand the concept of fraction after learning. Learning is a complex process that is influenced by experience and the environment. It is important to understand the type of change that occur in order to measure the success of learning.
Two major approaches to how people learn. There exists more than two perspectives that describe on how humans learn. However, there are two of the most popular and influential perspectives on instructional design are behaviorism and cognitivism. For more details, let's look at a brief explanation of the two perspectives that mentioned. Behavioral approaches to learning. Behavior's perspective believes that learning is a change of behavior that can be observable and measurable from experience. Behaviorism explains that learning occurs through classical and operant conditioning, in which complex behaviors are gradually formed through reinforcement. The environment plays an important role in shaping behavior, both through direct rewards and indirect cues associated with those rewards. Two major model on behavior perspective. Classical conditioning is a form of associative learning in which two stimuli are presented together so that a neutral stimulus becomes a conditioned stimulus capable of eliciting a conditioned response. Operant conditioning occurs when a response is followed by reinforcement such as a reward or punishment. Thereby increasing the response, opportunity will be repeated. In this case, the response is voluntary, and the individual actively influences his or her environment. A cognitivist approach to learning. In the cognitive perspective, learning is understood as mental changes and understanding that occur through experience with a focus on processes such as memory, pattern recognition, and problem solving. The mind is thought to work like a computer that processes knowledge and information with certain rules. Students are considered as active participants involved in the learning process, such as paying attention, ignoring, reflecting, and making decisions. These things are knowledge that can influence changes in behavior. A constructivist approach to learning. Constructivism is a learning approach that is actively constructed by students based on knowledge, experience, and interaction with the surrounding environment. Because this perspective assumes that students already have experience and knowledge, a certain learning process is needed, such as social interaction, a supportive learning environment, motivation, and self awareness. Using various approaches to learning. Each learner has different characters, needs, and backgrounds. Therefore, it is important to combine various approaches in designing learning so that the instructional interventions developed are more effective and in accordance with needs. Flexibility and the ability to adjust the approach are key in creating a successful learning design.
Thank you to Nesya, who has delivered our third material. Okay, now we have arrived at the last material, namely types of learning, and I'm Azhar. I'm back to deliver again the last material. In types of learning, there are three commonly used learning domains that refer to specific types of learning, namely cognitive domains, affective domains, and psychomotor domains. The first type of learning is cognitive domains. What is cognitive domains? Cognitive domains is formally referred to as Bloom taxonomy. This taxonomy is described with 6 levels, and I will deliver the 6th level from the lower to the higher level. Lower level or the basic level of cognitive domain is knowledge or remembering, which means when students or learners receive material from whether from their teacher, their books, or internet, they will try to remember what they learned, recalling the facts and basic concept. After they can remember, they should be able to understand the meaning of material, explaining the ideas or the concept, and then after they understand, they must be able to applicate what they learn or using the information what they learn in new situation. After they can applicate the information, they must be able to analyze the material, whether it's useful or not, good or bad, and yeah, so forth, like breaking down information into parts and so forth. And the next level is synthesis, and the last or the higher level, which means for the advanced, is evaluating, which is justifying a decision or course of action. But I got other next level of cognitive domains from several sources, and it's called the creating. This is for the advanced level, and maybe it means after you master all of these all types categories level, you will definitely able to create your own theory. That is from my opinion. Or putting elemental into together to form a new theory. The second types of learning is affective domain. What is affective domains? Affective domain is deal with emotional responses. It is like about how students feel, how students respond, and value things like their attitude toward learning and respect to the other. And then I will explain the from the basic level of affective domain to the advanced level. The first level is receiving. Receiving is like being aware of paying attention to something. For example, like listening to a teacher with interest. And then responding. Responding is participating actively or reacting to something. For example, like asking question or joining a group discussion. And then after responding, they will be able to valuing. It means which means showing that something is important to you. For example, like showing respect for classmates, classmate opinion, or valuing honesty. Then organizing. Organizing is integrating the different values and prioritizing them. For example, like forming a personal code of ethic or balancing personal values with social expectation. And then last level or for the advanced level is characterizing, which means acting consistently with certain values and beliefs. For example, like being known for fairness, compassion, or dedication. And the third types of learning is psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain is deal with physical abilities and skill. And psychomotor domain is about learning by doing, something like that, or similar, and also developing physical skill through practice and repetition. And I will also deliver from the basic level to the advanced level. The first level is perception. Perception is like using senses to guide motor activity. For example, like watching what is a demo before trying it yourself. Then second is set. Set is readiness to act, like mental, physical, and emotional. For example, like getting prepared to play a sport or give a performance, and after that you will get guide responses. Guide responses is performing under guidance or with help. For example, like practicing a new skill, uh, teacher helps, teachers help. And then mechanism. Mechanism is performing with confidence and some skill with what they learn. For example, like um, typing smoothly after practice. And then the fifth level is complex of a response. Complex of a response is like performing skillfully without help. For example, like playing a complex um, guitar piece, music instrumental with high accuracy. And then adaptation. Adaptation is modifying movement to fit a special situation. For example, like adjusting a cooking technique based on the tools available. And then the last higher or the advanced level is origination. It means creating new movement pattern or skills with your own with yourself. For example, like what is choreographing a dance or inventing a new workout routine. Alright, finally we already have reached the final section, the final slide, and I will deliver our presentation summary. Successful instructional designers know that understanding different and often very divergent perspectives on how people think will provide insight into how people learn. As described in this chapter, behaviorism and cognitivism and their various branches are two major psychological perspectives that have dominated how learning and has been viewed throughout the 20th century and now into the 21st century. Behaviorism stresses that learning is a result of a change in behavior as a result of experience, while cognitivism stresses that learning is a change in mental representation and association resulting from experience. It is important to understand that neither approach should be used exclusively. Okay, that's all of our presentation. Thanks for the attention and participation. I hope those material that we have delivered can be useful and increase the insight of our audiences. And we would like to say our terribly apologize if our presentation has a lot of mistake, as we know, such as typo, misspelling of pronunciation, noisy sound, or anything that made inconvenience. And if there is any criticism and advice, it will be a good support for us so we can improve our skill and fix our shortcomings. Once again, thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.